I just want to make sure, Sue, are you on?
Yes. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
I can hear you.
This conference will now be recorded.
Yeah. We don't have a lot of cameras people, though.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll start with the notice here. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 18, and the Governor's March 15, 2020 order, imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place. This meeting of the Sturbridge Planning Board will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information and the general guidelines for remote participation can be found on the town's website at www.sturbridge.gov/town-administrator/page/access-virtual-meeting. This meeting, members of the public who wish to listen and or watch the meeting. Am I muted?
No, sorry.
No, sorry, Charlie, technical difficulties on our end.
Okay.
But it's echoing, but we're muted on this end, so I'm not sure what the issue is. Sorry about that, go right ahead.
Okay. For this meeting, members of the public who wish to listen and or watch the meeting, either online via the town's on-demand video broadcast, on cable television on channel 191, or dial into the meeting at 774-304-1455, enter 1428 pound for the meeting number, and 12345 for the access code. This phone number is only active for the public during public meetings. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will post audio and or video recordings, transcript, or other comprehensive record of the proceedings on the town's website as soon as possible after the meeting. So the first item on the agenda will be the approval of the minutes of February 9th. Following that, we'll have a request for approval not required endorsement for 120/140 Fiscal Road.
Maybe just
Some real feedback.
All right, try that.
All right, try that now, Charlie.
Okay. At 6:35, we'll have a continuation of the public hearing for Fiscal East Realty Trust, requesting a definitive subdivision approval for property located at 30 Main and 20 Fiscal Road. At 6:45 p.m., we'll have a continuation of the public hearing of the special permit and site plan for 420 Main Street, Porchlight Investments 3 LLC. At 6:55, we'll have a public hearing for a special permit and site plan approval for 90 Charlton Road RLS complete. Following that, at 7:15, we'll have the right of first refusal consideration for Spencer Solar LLC at 133, 137, 139 Fiscal Road and 48 Old Farm Road. Following that, we'll have the town planner update, then old and new business, then adjournment. Has everyone had an opportunity to review the minutes of February 9th?
Yes.
Does anyone have any comments, questions, or changes they'd like to make? Okay. If not, I'll take a motion then to accept the minutes as submitted.
So moved?
Sue? Okay, thank you.
Second, Chris?
Second, Russell? Yes, okay, thank you. Okay. Sue, how do you vote?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Russ?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Jane?
Yes.
And I vote yes. And I should point out that all the members of the planning board are here with the exception of Mike Chisholm. Okay, it's past 6:37, so we will have the continuation of the public hearing on Fiscal Road, Fiscal East Realty
Get an
Trust.
A&R, Charlie.
Yeah,
You have an A&R first?
No,
We'll
I
do
don't,
the-
I don't
Okay,
have
so we'll
an
do-
A&R for that. It's just a continuation of, and a letter that explains that they would like a continuation in,
So we do have the A&R
Oh,
for
we
that.
have an-
yeah, we have an A&R first. I'll let Janae put it up on the screen.
okay, thank you.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
All right.
All right, so Zachary Gluff, the engineer surveyor, is on the meeting as well. But this plan is showing the creation of Lot A from the existing lot located at 120 Fisk Hill Road and then the remaining land, both of which meet the requirements. So since the plan meets the requirements, I would recommend the board endorse the plan as submitted. And as I said, Mr. Gluff is on the line if you have any questions.
Very good, thank you. Does anyone have any questions about the A&R? If not, I'll have a motion then to endorse the A&R.
So moved, Jeff.
Thank
Second,
you.
Sue?
Sue, very good. Sue, how do you vote?
Yes?
Chris?
Yes.
Yes? Yes. Yep.
Yes.
Dane?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Very good, thank you.
All right.
All right.
Okay. Now we'll move on to the continuation of the public hearing on Fisk Hill East Realty Trust. Jean, do you want to explain where we are on this?
Yes.
Yes.
So the applicant.
So the applicant
has
has requested a continuation of the public hearing until 8th.
And the reason.
And the reason that we need to request, or that they need to request a continuation, is they need time to finalize responses and submit a revised plan in response to the peer review comments. But they also need time to complete additional work requested by the Conservation Commission regarding a potential wetland resource area that needs further evaluation, and also a potential vernal pool habitat study needs to be done.
So since
the planning board needs to make its decision by March 9th, I also asked if they would agree to an extension of time for the planning board to act until June 30th, and they have submitted that in writing. So my recommendation this evening would be to vote to continue the public hearing until April 13th, and also to agree to the extension of time to act until June 30th. Peter Engel is on the meeting, and I know he wants to provide a brief update to the board, and then we'll just check the public line to see if anyone has called in.
Very good, thank you.
Good evening. So like Gene said, we're working on the plans. There wasn't too many changes to the plans as far as the peer review and the stormwater were concerned, but we're making progress on that. But like Gene said, the biggest obstacle right now is the vernal pool habitat study, which can only be done in a certain time of year when the wildlife that use those areas migrate and mate in those areas, which is between March and May. So unfortunately, we can make all the revisions sooner than April, but if those wetland studies come back and make us change the plans again, then it's a waste of everybody's time and resources. So as of right now, we're kind of just on hold until the wetland work is complete.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Jane, do you want to check to see if we have any callers that would like to be heard?
Yes.
We're on the line here. Is there anyone on the line that would like to make comment on the Fiscal subdivision?
Yes.
Yes. Please state your name and your address.
Robert and Lynn Barnes, 42 Fiscal Road.
You need to turn it up.
Can you hear that? Hear us okay?
Can the board?
Can the board hear? We do have somebody on the phone. We have Robert and Lynn Barnes from, I'm sorry, Mr. Barnes, 42 Fiscal Road?
That's correct. That's correct.
42 Fiscal. Can the board hear Mr. Barnes?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Barnes.
So we've been living on Fiscal now and there's no disturbance since 1983. And over those years, the traffic has gotten worse and worse on our street. And it's bad the last few years with the speed of the cars, the number of cars, and with the tie-up section, the intersection of a very dangerous situation at the intersection of Fiscal Road and Main Street. And we just want to make sure it doesn't seem like the traffic study that was done that's reflected on the website reflects. What is the volume of traffic that's going to be added to Fiscal Road? What's going to be the continuing tie-up and danger at the intersection of Fiscal Road and Main Street?
Okay. Well, we'll certainly take that concern under advisement, and we will be reviewing that when we review the overall traffic study as we continue the public hearing.
We thank you very much.
Sure. Thank you. We appreciate it. Anyone else?
Let us chat.
Let us chat.
Is there anyone else on the line who would like to make comment on the Fiscal subdivision? Nope.
Okay. Does anyone on the board have anything else to add? Or if not, we'll accept the motion then to continue the hearing until April 13th, and also to agree to the extension of time for the planning board to act until June 30th. Do we have a time to move it to on April 13th, Jane?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes, sorry about that, Charlie. 6:35 p.m.
Okay. Very good. Could I have a motion then?
So moved, Chris?
Thank you, Chris. Second?
Second, Jeff.
Okay, Jeff, thank you. Sue, how do you vote?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Russ? Yes. Jeff?
Yes.
Jane?
Yes.
I vote yes. Very good. Thank you very much. Okay, it looks like it's just 6:45 p.m., so that's good. We'll now have the continuation of the public hearing for special permit and site plan for 420 Main Street, Porchlight Investments 3 LLC. Jane, do you want to explain where we are on that one?
Yes.
Yes.
So the board
will recall at the last meeting, the only outstanding issue was going before the Board of Selectmen acting as the water commissioners regarding the groundwater protection district.
So we did
attend the meeting on February 16th, and at that time, the Board of Selectmen voted 5-0 that it had no concerns with the proposal. So therefore, this evening, I'm recommending approval with conditions, and I have provided a copy of the conditions to the applicant and to the planning board.
Would you like me to read?
Would you like me to read the conditions?
Yes, Gene, that'd be great. Thank you.
Condition number 1, all construction and site improvements shall be in conformance with the plan submitted and approved by the planning board and is modified by these conditions of approval. Where plan notations are requested by these, scratch that, that's a holdover, I'm sorry. Sorry about that. All construction and site improvements shall be in conformance with the plan submitted and approved by the planning board, period. Sorry about that.
Number two,
all landscaping is to be installed as shown on the plan submitted. Final landscaping to be shown on the as-built plan to be submitted to the planning department at completion of this project.
3,
3, any exterior lighting of the parking lot shall be subdued, shaded from view of abutters, and shall not be directed so as to extend above ground level onto property of abutters or the public right-of-way.
4,
4, all state and local zoning bylaws, building codes, and regulations must be adhered to.
5,
5, construction shall occur only during the hours of 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Friday, and 8 a.m. to noon on Saturday. No exterior construction shall occur on Sundays or the following holidays:
New Year's Day,
New Year's Day, Memorial Day, Independence Day, Labor Day, Thanksgiving Day, and Christmas Day.
6,
6, the applicant shall notify the planning department office 48 hours prior to the start of construction.
7,
7,
the site shall
the site shall be maintained in a neat and orderly
throughout the
construction process.
And 8,
And 8, an emergency contact phone list with at least 2 names and numbers on it must be supplied to the Sturbridge Police Department and Planning Department to be used by dispatchers in the case of an off-hour emergency prior to the start of the project.
the list must
The list must be updated whenever necessary for the duration of the project.
Okay, Gene, thank you. Does anyone have any questions? Sue, do you have any questions or comments on the,
No questions or comments.
Okay, great, thank you. Chris?
Nope, no questions or comments.
Russ? No questions or comments? Okay, thank you. Jeff?
Nothing.
Okay, thank you. Dane?
No.
Okay, and I'm all set with it as well. Do we want to see if there's any in the public that wants to call in and talk about it?
Is there anyone on the public comment line that would like to make a comment on 420 Main Street?
There's no one on the line.
No one on the line, Charlie.
Okay, so first then we'll have a motion to close the public hearing. So moved, Russell. So moved. Second, Sue?
Second, Sue? Mm-hmm.
How do you vote, Sue?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Russ? Yes. Jeff? Yes. Dane?
Yes.
Okay, and I vote yes. Very good. Okay, so then, next I would like to motion then, grant the special permit, with the conditions that Jean just read. Would someone like to make that motion?
So moved, Sue?
moved, Russell. Okay.
Second,
Sue and second, okay, great. Sue, how do you vote?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Russ? Yes. Jeff?
Yes.
Dane?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Very good. Thank you all. Okay, it looks to me like it's only 6:50, so we've got a few minutes before we can open the public hearing for 90 Charlton Road. Jean, would you like to start going over things on your town planner update?
So I don't have
So I don't have too much for you on the town planner update. I can tell you our next meeting is March 9th, and as of this moment, we have nothing scheduled yet, so I will keep you up to date on that. On March 23rd, we'll be holding a public hearing on the site plan approval for the parking lot to be located at 501 Main Street, and this is the property that the town purchased in the commercial tourist district to create the public parking lot. And then we'll also be holding the public hearing on the floodplain bylaw revision. And then I guess I can just give the board a brief update. I was out at Pilot Travel on Thursday for an inspection to look at the site for a temporary occupancy. And I went out with the building inspector, and we were still waiting for the electrical inspector, plumbing inspector, and fire department, of course, to go out there. But I just wanted to report that the construction is moving along really well. The building's not quite ready for them to get that occupancy permit, but I believe that they are starting to train their employees on the new services that they're providing, which include the Auntie Annie's pretzels, the Cinnabon, and the Subway. I was really very impressed. I think it will be really nice for the truck drivers that need to use the facility, the beautiful shower rooms, private shower rooms with a private toilet area, dressing room, and a nice shower with actually more shower heads than you probably have in your own shower at home. It's actually very nice. And we did walk around the site. My big concern was demolishing the existing store while being open to the public, and we talked about how they will be fencing the existing store in and making sure there's a travel lane for the trucks to get around there. But they've really done a really nice job, and it's really turning out fantastic. The fuel pumps for automobiles are all ready to go, so once they get that green light from the town, they'll be able to transition over to the new store and to the new fuel pumps as well. So very impressed with everything that's being done there and happy to see it moving along so well. That is
probably
about the extent.
I don't know if we
have time to.
Yeah, just a quick question on pilot now. Do they have to wait for the permanent power to be there? Is that what the issue now is?
Yes, so
they're still waiting for National Grid is really the holdup. So a new pole needs to be installed, and if you recall, we kind of went through the same issue with Apple Green. They were all ready to go, but we're waiting for National Grid to be able to set the poles. And I know there have been some weather issues. I do know Mr. Bridges reached out to National Grid, and I know they said that they were going to try to expedite that pole location. So we're hoping that maybe, sometime this week, the pole will actually get set and we'll give them permanent power, which will allow the electrical inspector to be able to, go in and make that inspection to be able to get that temporary occupancy and start to make that transition.
That would be great.
And
once it's set up, actually we were hoping to do it this week, but it's looking like they might not be quite ready, but they've extended an invitation to, anyone on the planning board that would like to come out and have a tour. So once we're at that point, I will let you know, and I'd be happy to meet anyone down there that would like to meet with Brian Cook, the manager, and, get a tour of what's been done so far. It's really nice with a really nice, a driver's lounge, a laundry area, and then of course they have their own PJ Fresh brand of groceries and meals that can just be warmed up. So, I think it will be really a welcome place for truck drivers to stop. To get off the road for a little while, get some rest, and have a bite to eat. But don't eat those Cinnabons. I think there are a lot of calories.
Very good. Thank you. All right. From my clock, it looks like it's just 6:55. So, Sue, do you want to read the public hearing notice for the special permit and site plan approval for 90 Charlton Road?
Sure. In accordance with the provisions of Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 40A, Section 11, the Planning Board will hold a public hearing virtually on Tuesday, February 23rd, 2021 at 6:55 on the application of RLS Complete Regional LLC, 45 Caitlin Way, Westfield, Mass. 01085. The applicant requests a special permit and site plan approval pursuant to Chapter 10, 24, 25, and 43 of the zoning bylaw regarding the erection of a cold storage facility. The applicant requests site plan approval to allow for the construction of an 83,035 square foot cold storage facility for the import and distribution of frozen food products throughout the region and related site improvements. The applicant is also requesting a special permit to construct a building that is greater than 35 feet high in accordance with Chapter 10, Section 10.02C of the zoning bylaw. The applicant is proposing a maximum building height of 57 feet. The property location is 90 Charlton Road, Sturbridge, Mass. 01566.
Okay, thank you very much, Sue. Jean, would you like to introduce this and go through where we are with this?
Yes.
So the board will recall, I think it might have been back in December or January, that Mr. Hedge and his team met with the board to go over the conceptual layout and design. And since the board was supportive of that, they finalized their application and submitted that at the end of January. When the application was received, quotes were sought for peer review for the traffic impact analysis and the stormwater management system, and John Shevlin of Park Corporation was retained to do that work. The application was forwarded to staff, and their concerns or comments, were provided back, and no major concerns were noted at that time. Around February 12th, I was contacted by an abutter, Venture Community Services. They would be the direct abutter to this property. And they had outlined their concerns related to the impact of this business. And the main issue was their outdoor programming area for they serve people with disabilities and in particular autistic children. So I was able to connect the applicant, Brian, and Michael Highland so that they could discuss Mr. Highland's concerns and so that Mr. Hedge could explain a little bit about his operation to Mr. Highland. And in addition, the applicant really kind of went above and beyond, prepared some additional visual simulations to show Mr. Highland what the building may look like from their property. And they actually talked about taking extra measures to buffer between the two if needed. And so all the email correspondence is contained within your packet, and you'll see that the outcome was that Mr. Highland was very happy with the response that he received from Mr. Hedge, and I think that all of the issues have been resolved, and the two have agreed to work together if needed to maybe put up a fence or add some buffering as the construction went along. In addition, I was contacted by I'll say somebody in the neighborhood, not an abutter, but within the neighborhood, and that was Chris Bailey of the New England Coal, and that was the cold storage facility on Picker Road that was recently approved by the board, and he had some concerns with really, I think, traffic and operation management. I'm very briefly summarizing, and you have that email within your packet as well. And then subsequent to that, I was also contacted by FTH Logistics, which is a logistics company out of West Brookfield, Massachusetts, and their concerns really kind of mirrored or echoed what was contained in Mr. Bailey's letter. So those have all been provided to the board, and RLF did provide a response to that, which is dated February 19th, and that was provided to both of the individuals that submitted comments as well as to the board. And also all of this information has been provided to John Shevlin, and he's been in contact with the applicant and their engineers, and they have discussed the operation. I've reviewed the application for compliance with the bylaw, and based on my review and the peer reviews, I am recommending grant of the special permit for the height requested for the 57 feet, and I'm also recommending approval of the site plan with conditions as stated in the report. This evening you have the applicant team, you have Mr. Brian Hedge, Andrew Bond from Summit Engineering, Bernie Gowen from VAI as the transportation engineer, and Todd Garrett from Pittman. Also here this evening is John Shevlin from Park Corporation. So we will turn the screen over to whomever for the applicant would like to be the presenter. Brian, okay.
That will be me, G.
All right.
Hopefully you can all see that screen.
Yes.
Yes.
Looks good. So, what we're going to just kind of review the entire process this evening. We'll talk a little bit about the industry background. I know we did this briefly about a month ago, 2 months ago. Give you a little background on RLS Partners, the background on RLS Complete, which is our organization. I'll address the abutter concern.
Would it be possible to make it a little bit bigger? I think we're having a little more difficulty reading the slides. If not, that's all right.
Yeah, I'm not sure that I can make it much bigger, Mr. Chairman. Let's see. Yeah, that's
Charlie, to the right, there may be a plus sign that you can click on and make it bigger. To the right of the screen?
No,
No? Okay.
don't have anything there.
No, I meant the members of the board,
Oh,
because I was able to do it.
Oh, yeah,
Member of the board.
okay. Perfect.
Okay?
Yeah, I did that. It was
Okay.
mine was a 20%, now it's a 50%. Great, Drew.
Okay.
Really become a technician. That's great. Very good.
okay, so that, and then we'll talk a little bit about the other concern from Mike Highland at Venture Community Services. I've got that actually spelled incorrectly or noted incorrectly, and show you the renderings that we're able to share with Mike. We'll talk about the special permit request for building height, and then Andy Baum will walk us through a site plan overview, and Andy will talk about stormwater management, utilities, the utility connections, lighting, trash removal, snow removal, the traffic circulation on site, our landscaping plan, and future signage. We also have Bernie Gune is here from Bonas Associates, and Jeff couldn't make it this evening. So quickly, a little background on the industry. Temperature controlled warehouse industry is seeing some pretty explosive growth right now. We serve both the frozen and refrigerated supply chains, food and beverage and pharma. The customer base is really food and beverage producers, both local and national. We have lots of local producers, but there are national producers that are not in the New England market that would like to have a presence here. So those are also part of our customer base: grocery distributors, food service distributors, and pharma producers. U.S. refrigerated warehouse capacity has grown about 8% annually over the last 4 years. So we've gone in the United States from 118 million cubic feet to 156 million cubic feet, and 82% of that capacity is operated by 3PLs, which is a temperature-controlled third-party logistics provider. U.S. temperature-controlled 3PLs are operating at 84% occupancy right now, very similar to manufacturing efficiency is peaked out at about 85%. Once you get above that, you've got some challenges operationally. Forrester Research recently published an updated study on the cold chain industry, and they're projecting that we're going to experience compound annual growth rates of 8.8% over the next 5 years in our space. So there's plenty of growth projected. The barriers to entry to this space are really twofold. Capital. Refrigerated warehouse construction costs are 2 to 3 times that of ambient warehouses, where you can probably build a dry storage building, dry storage industrial warehouse right now for, an 83,000 square foot building would probably cost about $8 million. And we're looking at a project cost of pretty close to 22 to 23 million. So there's a big difference there. Expertise, the very highly regulated business. USDA, FDA, EPA, OSHA. You've got, if you operate a trucking arm, you've got to deal with the federal highway motor carrier safety requirements. So there's lots of different pieces that come into play here. Food safety is another big issue that's really being driven by the Global Food Safety Initiative. And so that really details all of how you operate your building in terms of operational process, in terms of standard operating procedures and sanitation, cleanliness, making sure that all your permits and licenses are up to date. So it's a very highly regulated. Technology requirements are also expanding as customers really want to become, they're really becoming purchasers of technology, of data. So business intelligence software is being layered over the top of our financial warehouse management systems and transportation management systems to be able to provide them with as much information as possible. And facility operations, when you get down to how you can operate the refrigeration systems and lighting and high-speed doors and all the high equipment in the building, there is no substitute for expertise and experience. The growth drivers for our industry really are population growth. The last decade, we've added 332 million people to the United States, so that's not projected to slow down at any time soon. Online shopping, fulfillment sales were up 60% in 2020 versus 2019. A lot of that is contributed to the pandemic and folks wanting to not go into stores. The same thing with click and collect, which is really when you order online, if you place an order with Walmart and then you pull into the parking lot and pick up the order and never have to go in the store. So that's also up 175% versus 2019. Right. And you see things like Instacart that are having an impact on that as well. Yeah. Fresh as frozen.
So, I hate to interrupt too much, but I would like to move along to the project itself if we could.
Okay. We'll talk a little bit. RLS Partners is just organization. It's a third generation cold chain business, RLS Logistics, and we've come up with RLS Partners, which is providing alternatives so that family controlled cold chain companies and their executives do not have to sell. If they enjoy the business, they don't have to sell to Americold or Lineage, which are the two large consolidators right now. This is a kind of a layout of how our company will grow and what our targeted regions are. Really, a company that I started in June to become a partnering regional operator with RLS as an RLS partner. And so you've all seen my background. I've shared that with you in the past, so I don't think we need to dwell on that. And so what we're really looking to do is build an 83,000 square foot temperature controlled warehouse at 90 Charlton Road. And that will serve as the New England headquarters for the RLS Complete organization. We'll operate about just under 18,000 pallet positions. We'll have 2 storage rooms with significant staging room in each of those rooms. Each will be capable of operating between -20 and 50 degrees based on our customers. We've got 11 dock doors planned and 12 trailer parking spaces. And the enacting strategy is to service customers throughout the build out of a network of smaller facilities that are closer to the customer locations throughout New England. And we just executed an agreement to design and operate 120,000 square feet of temperature controlled space in Portland, Maine. So we're working on that right now as well. So as Gene alluded to, Mike Hyland and I have had several conversations. Mike contacted Gene about concerns about visual impairment from his location, noise, and dust that may derive from our property. Mike was really concerned about sight and noise disruption in a garden and sitting area that he's got on the back of his building that's really on the west side that abuts our property. And he's got autistic clients that use that pretty regularly. So understanding how that can be a problem, we began to talk about how we might resolve that. So one of the things that we did talk about was, there's going to be a lot of natural vegetation that'll be left on that boundary. And if that, as we progress, Mike and I agreed that we will continue to just talk and get together on site and look at it. And if that vegetation is not enough screening, then we will, or if there's a problem with noise, we would construct a a fencing situation where there would actually be some noise buffering benefit as well as visual benefit for Mike, and we agreed to stay in touch. You can see a couple of renderings. This is one rendering that we provided to Mike. This is without a fence, so this is kind of what our building will look like from his garden area. And this is a second rendering where you can see that there is some fencing that is included in this. In terms of the special permit request, we're looking at a building height of 57 feet at parapet, and that's consistent with cold storage industry design right now. The reasons for going high in our industry are that we reduce the footprint of the building. We improve land utilization. There's less impervious land and less clearing of the vegetation. Also floor warming systems. These buildings are, running at -20. And so if the concrete pad freezes, and we get some heaving issues with the floor. And so what really happens is that floor starts to come up like this. And then as that happens, the rack could tip, and then we've got some safety issues. So it's really, you need to warm the floor. So running glycol loops throughout the underneath the floor prior to pouring the concrete is what helps us do that and allows us to maintain those sub-zero temperatures. So we've got less concrete to pour, we've got less glycol loops to run and maintain. We have a smaller footprint, which provides a smaller space to cool, and it minimizes cooling loss because that vapor barrier and the building envelope is really where we have opportunity to lose that cool air. The product density, because it's really tight in the building, and we are intending on using mobile high-density racks, so that will allow us to really optimize that. That thermodynamic assist it really helps reduce the cooling and keeps our electrical load down. That's one thing, these buildings pull a huge load off the grid. So as much as we can reduce that, that's what our effort is to do. The taller building also reduces the square footage. Obviously, the size of the roof is smaller. Such cooling loss is less. The building is at the back of the site, as we talked about a couple months ago, and that allows us to really use that natural vegetation to screen it, and it's consistent with the surrounding properties and uses. And the last reason for really going to 57 feet is that the Quell fire suppression system, which is a high flow water system, it requires 55 feet to the bottom of the deck for that to use. If we don't use Quell, then we're talking about an in-rack dual activated sprinkler system, and that has a lot of operational impediments to it. And what happens is it's dual activated. So you've got what we call a protecto wire that runs through the rack. And if you pinch that wire, or that wire breaks from a case falling off a carton or what have you, it actually triggers a fire alarm. And so we'll have the fire department out there. I can tell you in past operations, with dual activated sprinkler systems, we've had upward of 10 false alarms on an annual basis. So it gets really disruptive to the operation, but also the first responders, the fire department does not appreciate the extra trip. So that's really the background behind that special permit request. And then Andy Baum will walk us through the site plan overview, and we'll touch on each one of those topics.
Very good, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For the record, my name is Andy Baum from Summit Engineering and Survey. We're the engineer of record for the site plan portion of this project. And just to get the board oriented to this figure that's up on the right-hand side, you can see Charlton Road, or Route 20. On the page north of that picture is the venture building that Brian was talking about with regard to the abutter that was requesting some additional screening or vegetation throughout the construction process. To the left of that page is the pipe yard for FW Webb. And then to the bottom of the page for the abutter is that's the actually frontage portion of the Walmart site for Hobbs Brook Shopping Plaza. The site itself is 7 acres. It's entirely upland. The topography of the site, if you go from the upper right-hand corner of the portion of the site down to the lower left, that's the general topography of the site. There is a very steep vein of ledge, kind of where we broke or show the limit of clearing and new vegetation that steps down pretty substantially. Another restriction factor on this site is, if some of you may be aware, on that portion of Route 20, there is a jug handle that was proposed back in 1969 off of Fiscal Road in that area. So the portion of the frontage, northerly or easterly portion of the frontage, is actually restricted to have no access. So there's a very small portion of that access is permitted. We actually designed that to be directly across from the proposed intersection of that jug handle with Fiscal Road, should it ever be constructed. In terms of the access down to that portion, the grade drops down substantially. And if the board remembers, when we talked about the initial design, we went through a few iterations with this project where we had the orientation of the building mirrored from what we're presenting tonight. And we were concerned particularly about given the height of the proposed height of the building and the proximity of the building to the roadway. And we would basically be removing all the vegetation from the site to be able to get it to support it. And then secondly, we're concerned about the visual scape of that size of a building that close to the road for all the people that are traversing the site. In discussion, we put the building as shown or proposed. We're able to drop the site about 20 feet from where Charlton Road is to the bottom of the loading dock as shown. So you're already getting almost half the building below the sight line. Secondly, we're able to maintain close to 100 feet of the natural occurring vegetation that's along the frontage. It's predominantly hardwoods. There are some pines in there. But our ability to maintain that existing grade and that vegetation is going to help aid in screening the operation in the building from the front. And then we've also proposed in the landscaping some additional underplanting that's specialized to screen that facility even more. And the last part is, it is a nice looking building, I think, but the ability to step the building up from the office to the loading dock and then to the ultimately to the height of the storage warehouse, which is those two large rectangles to the left of that page, kind of breaks up the building so you're not looking at a very large, tall, massive wall from the roadway. Parking, as you can see, there's two primary parking areas. The first one to the right as you come into the site is for visitors and employees of the facility. We're provided 33 parking stalls for that, two of which are handicap accessible. There's an accessible route. If you look to the lower left-hand corner of that parking area, that provides a walk that gets into the office portion of the building. And then the second parking area, the larger parking area, is where the trucking would occur. As Brian had noted, there's 12 staging stalls on the right-hand side and 11 loading docks on the left-hand side up adjacent to the building. We have provided a perimeter loop around the building itself to allow for emergency apparatus and maintenance vehicles to get around the site should they ever need to occur. It's proposed as, excuse me, a reinforced grass surface to limit, again, some green technology trying to limit the amount of impervious surfaces on the site. Right now it's shown as reinforced gravel with some topsoil. And we talked about adding some geotextiles to reinforce that even more to make everyone clearly aware of what is where the driving surface is. Drainage was a little bit of a challenge on the site. You'll notice that there are no exposed drainage basins compared to a lot of other sites that get constructed. Excuse me. Given the amount of fill, we utilized subsurface storage and recharge predominantly as our way to mitigate the flows coming off the site from the increase in impervious area and the change of surface. There's three primary areas. One is actually underneath the accessible walk between the visitor parking and employee parking and the truck area. There's a long one located to the south of the building and another one underneath to the west of the building. we included drainage calculations that have been reviewed by pair associates that show that we reduced the peak flow rate coming off the site. And then secondly, in accordance with the Sturbridge bylaw and the stormwater management policy, we meet the environmental standards for total suspended solid removal, recharge, and water quality volumes for any type of development. Landscaping, this is a pretty good picture showing the trees that are proposed along the access way, as well as some increased buffer vegetation around the perimeter and the tank. And then we have some planted islands to try to break up the parking areas in accordance with the bylaw for parking standards. And then some small vegetation around to accent the front of the building or the main office portion. Remainder of the site will be stabilized with loam and seed, grass. There are some steep slopes around the water tank. We're anticipating a lot of that will be a rock face or ledge cut, given the conditions of the soil on the site. Utilities, the site will be serviced by public water, public sewer, and electric from National Grid. There is a proposed fire loop that goes around the entire building, and we had some comments from the fire department in terms of making sure we coordinate with them on the exact location of the fire hydrants. That round tan circle that you'll see kind of center north of the parking area in the square is a 500,000 gallon storage tank for water, and then the pump house to provide the fire protection for the building in the event something should ever have to happen. That's all I have with regard to how the site functions. Turn it over to Ryan. And this is a figure here. One of the questions that came up from Pear was the ability to turn a truck into the install there. So you can see the turning radius for a 65-foot long truck, which is probably the more restrictive unit that this site would experience. I think it's one of the larger ones from the highway, the standard templates. And that's all I have. There's an aerial view of the site from what would be the westerly side. You can see the plantings along the side and our attempt to keep as much vegetation along Route 20 as possible. And here's a view. And this lastly, it was included in the design review and it's included in your packets. These are the species or specimens that were selected by the landscape architect to plant around the facility.
So, questions from the board at this point?
Okay. Yeah, does anyone have any comments or questions at what's been presented so far? We will want to hear from John Shevlin and, get his opinion on the studies that have been presented. But Sue, do you have any questions at this point? Sue? Okay.
So you're
muted.
No questions.
Chris?
No questions from me.
Hey, Russ?
I got a couple, but I'll wait for the end. They're not really, I'll wait till the end, Charlie. Thank you.
All right, Russ. Jeff?
Nothing on the site plan, just a couple of comments.
Okay.
No question.
All right, Jeff. Dane?
Yeah, I was wondering if there's a opportunity to move the accessible parking spaces closer to the building to limit the walk from the remote parking lot. Looks like there's a lot of green space up in front of the building, and you only have, I think, 2 accessible parking spaces.
We can look into that. One of the goals of this design was to try to keep the pedestrian or passenger vehicles segregated from the truck traffic around the site. That's why they were put where they were.
Understood. I was wondering if you have any concerns about those infiltration basins behind, and in some cases, a little uphill of those retaining walls.
No, you're gonna have some drainage on the retaining wall themselves. And there's not a profile view, but the bottom of the recharge area is actually, in some cases, below the retaining wall elevation.
And that retaining wall be designed by a PE and submitted as part of the building plans?
Yes.
Do you guys have any use for guards or gates or anything like that, or is this going to be open?
At this point, it's planned to be open, Dane.
Okay, those are all my questions. Thanks, guys.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
And I don't have any other questions at this point.
Charlie, do you want?
Charlie, do you want to hear from Bernie, the traffic engineer? He's also in the meeting this evening.
Yeah, that would be good, I think, yes.
Yeah, Bernie is next up, so.
Okay,
Great.
yeah. For the record, my name is Bernie Kuhn. I'm a finance associate. Good evening, everyone. I will do a little overview of the traffic study we did for this project. Basically, this project is an 83,000 square feet cold storage facility. And the traffic study that we conducted, we are using the guideline as the Massachusetts Department of Transportation guideline for doing a traffic study to determine the impact of this project. For this project, what we did is we collect the traffic data near the project site at the two nearby intersections, the Route 20 at the Hubsburg's Center Driveway, and also at Route 20 at Picker and Fiscal road intersections. The traffic count was conducted back in September 2019 at the Route 20, the Hubsburg's Center, and the additional intersection was counted in May 2020 at the Route 20 and Picker Road and Fiscal road intersection. And we also put out a machine to count the daily volumes in the vicinity project in October 2020. Based on this, the count that was conducted in this 3 months, we evaluate the seasonal fluctuation of the traffic volumes and using a continuous count station put down by Mass DOT at Interstate 84, south of Route 20 in Sturbridge. According to this station, the month that we collect the data, which is May, September, October, they are all about average conditions. So therefore, there's no adjustment to the traffic volume that we collected during this 3-month period, during this 3 different months. In order to adjust the traffic volume to pre-COVID condition, as a guideline provided by Mass DOT, since the count that we collected during September 2019 was pre-COVID, we used that to adjust our count that was conducted during 2020. And we adjusted traffic volume during the weekday morning peak hour by 92%. During the weekday evening peak hour, we adjusted 40%. From the daily volume, we adjusted 43%, so that those volumes are basically pre-COVID condition. With that, what we did was we projected traffic volume to the future 2027 condition. One way to doing that is looking at what is any proposed project in the town of Sturbridge and in the town of Charlton. And based on the result provided to us by the planning board, the planning departments, we include 5 background projects in the town of Sturbridge, 5 background projects in the town of Charlton. In additional, we grow the traffic volume for this study to by 1% per year to 2027. So this is a very conservative traffic volume condition based on what we did. With that, we estimate the vehicle trips for this project using Institute of Transportation Engineer trip trip generation manual, which is the industrial standard to estimate number of trips for each type of project that is proposed to be constructed. And we use ITE land use code 157 to estimate the number of trips based on the size of the building. With that, we projected the daily volume for the project is 176 vehicle trips, which means 88 vehicles trip in, 88 vehicles out. During the AM peak hour, the estimate trip was 9 total vehicle trips, 7 going in, 2 exit. During the PM peak hour, it's a total of 10 vehicles trips that will be generated by the project. 3 going in and 7 exit out. With this kind of generation, basically, during the peak hour, we're talking about the most 1 vehicle trip or 1 truck trip every 6 minutes. So the impact on us, basically on Route 20 or even the tourist study area that we study is really minimal. It's not causing any traffic operations problem. And as you know, as an industrial standard, traffic volumes on a typical day could range from 0 to 10%, depends on time of the day or week. Sunday will be lower, but Saturday depends on type of use. It could be higher. But, usually usually Monday is lower. So basically, the increase in daily traffic volume is really minor. It's probably 1% of what is currently on Route 20. And we're analyzing the project site driveways to look at the level of service. The proposed project site driveway, based on our analysis, is going to operating at level service D during the PM and level service C during the AM peak hour. In our typical traffic analysis, levels of service D is considered acceptable level of service. So the driveway meets operation criteria, which is operating a good level of service with minimal queuing at the driveway. And also, we also look at the site distance, and the proposed site driveways meets the design speed, which was like 65 miles in Route 20, and we got over 70 feet of site distance. So there's no problem with the location of the site driveway, and also with the traffic that is generated by the project and the 2 study intersection. We did not change any or drop any level of service at those 2 intersections at all. And I think that's my presentation. I also made a statement that, the trip rate that is generated by this project is that we are using is the industrial standard. And the project proponents have mentioned that their trip might be, the number of trips that they might be generated less than that. That could be true too, because we're using a national average to generate the trips for this project site.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Maybe a good time now, John Trevlin, for you to weigh in and give us your peer review consideration on this.
Absolutely. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, my name is John Trevlin from Park Corporation. Part 1 and we did review the documents that were provided to us back in middle of February, early February or so for this development. So we did take a look in regards to the project narrative, the plan submission that was given to us, the traffic impact assessment, the stormwater management submittal, and the renderings were provided in other documents. Since we did our review, as you know, there's been a lot of correspondence going back and forth in regards to other things that weren't really addressed in regards to submittals originally came about, but were addressed as far as the overall operations of the site, which is, I think, very key in regards to the conclusions that we came up with. But I'll just go through some of them. I'll say significant comments that I had based on our review, and we'll start with the traffic impact assessment. The first few comments that we had in the project description, the existing additions, were really mostly just grammatical, weren't consistent with the plans, but very minor. It's not going to impact the project. The methodology that they did as far as grabbing and gaining existing traffic volumes, with the adjustment factors that they put on there and how they put the adjustment factors on there to make them existing conditions, because, as mentioned by Bernie, Some of the counts were done pre-COVID or during COVID, and we were trying to get the pre-COVID conditions. So they did apply appropriate factors on there to try to get them to existing conditions. Similarly, for getting to future no-build conditions, the growth factors they applied and how they went about it, using Mass DOT information and growth factors, through other information was satisfactory. They did perform a speed study out there, and the sight lines at the proposed driveway are pretty significant. I believe they're over 730 feet, which exceeds the AASHTO requirements. For their safety analysis, they looked at the crash data that was obtained. They did obtain the latest crash data from the Mass DOT crash database, which goes to 2017, and they did get it for a 5-year period. I just made a comment in regards to, a lot of times people make the comment in regards to, well, this crash data seems outdated, but that is the most current data that is available. And based on my knowledge of the area, I don't think there's been any geometric changes or any significant changes in the area, so I wouldn't anticipate that the crashes were any worse off than they may have been based on the data that they provided to us. As far as the future conditions, as I mentioned, is satisfied in regards to what they put on there for a growth condition, for a future no growth condition. They also coordinated with the planning department as far as other developments that are occurring in the area, and they took those into consideration as far as doing their traffic assessment. As was mentioned, they used the ITE numbers, and those numbers are based on industry standards from similar sites throughout the country. And I think one of the things that I think Mr. Hedge might be worth going into after I'm done is just talk about the operations and how it operates, because it does vary a little bit. And I think Bernie mentioned that the volumes that are projected from ITE may be even a little bit on the high side, the conservative side, based on the actual operations, how they operate as far as taking customers into the facility. The overall traffic operations analysis, using ITE for the future traffic in regards to coming up with those volumes and then doing the analysis. As was mentioned, there's little impact as far as capacity or delays and level of service. So the volumes that are being created from the development should not have a significant impact on the roadways. In summary, as far as the overall traffic study, I think the methodology that they use in order to do the study for the off-site work, I think has shown that there wouldn't be any significant improvement. We can agree with that and their findings for that. So we're in agreement in regards to what they developed. I don't know if I stated, but I did compare this study compared to what was done prior to for the Picker Road, and the methodology was the same that they used for that development as this one. All the assumptions were pretty much the same, so I think they're very consistent as far as what those studies are and what the findings are on that area. The other component that we review was the stormwater management report. We did review the overall submission that was provided to us. We reviewed the borings that were provided to ensure that there's not ledge that's high that's going to affect the drainage. We took a look in regards to the basin layouts, the drainage layouts, the calculations that were done, the rims, the inverts. And we found that that drainage study was done, and the findings of that as far as the impacts for the peak rate runoff for the different 24-hour storm events that they provided for the 2, 10, 50, 100-year storm. We feel that the analysis they provided for the design is acceptable. We did take a look, as mentioned, the stormwater standards. We felt that all the stormwater standards that were presented, they met those standards, or several were were not applicable, but all the ones that were applicable, they did meet the requirements of the stormwater management standards. Looking at the plans, we had some comments just looking at that, that may not have been on the plans, but the location of the dumpster, that wasn't shown, so we're just wondering exactly where that was going to fall, just looking at the site plan. As was mentioned before, the turning templates as far as coming into the site, once you got in, as far as being able to back up into the docks because of the other area and the aisle widths, but they were able to show that on the plan that's actually showing on the side there, so that we feel comfortable that they can get into those dock areas. Just after clarification, I know they're showing both granite and bituminous curb. I'm assuming that's just at the radius of the site entrance, and then it's going to go to bituminous, but just clarification of the plans for that. I did have one question as far as the underground basin number 1. It appears that there's only about 2.25 feet of cover on that. And that's an area I just want to make sure that they can go ahead and confirm that that's enough cover and it can hold the weight of a fire truck in those areas. Also on sheet C11, I thought from the detail that was provided that it looked like it was a grass road with no structural support. So I was just wondering if that is the actual detail, if they can confirm. I think it was mentioned from Andrew that they had a reinforced grass, and I may have missed that, but I thought the detour that they had on there was for the access road. So just clarification on that. Then there's talks about in regards to the vehicular barrier gate. There's a detail on there. I was wondering if that was going to be applied anywhere, because I believe I did not see that on the plans as well. So based on what's been provided for the site plans, stormwater plans, I said overall let's say they're relatively minor comments that just need clarification. I think the methodologies for both the stormwater and for the traffic, I think meet the industry standards. But I think one thing that, we should discuss further, because I know there's been questions in regards to the whole operations and how there's some concerns in regards to queuing and how the trucks are going to arrive and how they're checked in and everything else, which I think might be worthwhile for the applicant to get into a little bit more detail on before I comment on it.
Okay, John, thank you. Brian, would you like to comment on that? I know we got a supplemental bit of information on February 22nd regarding this operation and the impact that it might have on queuing and so forth.
Sure. So, the traffic study does indicate, the standard method of calculating, but one of the things that we did look at as we were designing the building is how many truck trips we could anticipate. And, that number we're projecting is somewhere around 50. So, we're thinking we're going to need to average 3 appointments per hour. Now that may be 2 at certain times or 4 at certain times, but there are some ways to get around not having to deal with the truck queuing, especially during peak hours. One of those methods would be to bring somebody in at 5 a.m. and just set up 10 appointments in back trailers until that one employee's coming in. They're just unloading the 10 trailers, and that clears the first 3 hours of traffic right out of the gate. So there's some different things we can do operationally from that standpoint. In terms of employees, we'll have 10 employees that are we're projecting they're going to work 6 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. And so they will miss the peak traffic flow hours. There will be 3 employees that work 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. or thereabouts. I will be one of those. I'm sure I won't ever leave before 5 p.m. So we will also, those employees will miss the peak traffic flow. And then there will be 6 employees in the building that are working on a second shift from 2:30 p.m. to 11 p.m. And they will also miss the peak traffic flow. So really the peak travel trips entering and exiting the facility will really be trucks at the appointed times. So that's a little bit about the traffic and appointment scheduling and check-in. To go a little bit more into detail, the pandemic has really driven a lot of public refrigerated warehouses to modify their check-in procedures. And while I can't speak to what grocery retailers are doing or food service distributors are doing, I'm assuming they're probably not modified very much, but we will be using an online appointment scheduling system. This is something that we've used in my past life. And once that is scheduled, the carrier receives an appointment time and date with an appointment number and a number to call. So we'll also have some signage posted on the grounds of the facility so that drivers will know what number to call when they arrive in the yard. And then that's a dedicated line, and we will tell the driver what door to back into and then bring his paperwork into the driver lounge. So there will be a separate trucker lounge that will have, seating, vending machines, phones, so that they can make phone calls. There will be a secure area. They won't be able to, they'll be able to interact verbally with our employees, but they won't be able to get anywhere near them physically and touch them. So that piece will allow us to get the paperwork, get the truck backed in, and get working on it without any delays at check-in. The typical process is the driver arrives, pulls up to a receiving office, walks into the, brings his paperwork into the office, hands it to the clerk, and then waits for the clerk to process that, and then gets direction on what door to back into. But like I said, because of the pandemic, a lot of public refrigerated warehouses have had to try to kind of figure that out. Mainly that's because we don't operate with 300 employees like a lot of grocery retailers and food service distributors do. We have a small employee base, and we try to keep it that way. So, excuse me, in terms of, managing that process, that's what we do. There's many innovative ways that we can cut down any need for truck queuing if it ever evolved into that. So it's just a matter of really monitoring and managing the site, and everyone that runs a distribution center has to be cognizant of that. So I hope that addresses your question, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Brian. I think that's very helpful. Now, it's interesting, John Shevlin, in your February 18th report, you had mentioned, you said, we would like to get more information regarding operations to ensure the peak traffic hour volumes. And of course, some of the comments that Gene had mentioned, from the public and also from members of the public who apparently had some kind of experience in this type of business in traffic and trucking, raising the specter of possibility of queuing going out and blocking Route 20. And of course, that's quite a difference from what we're seeing from what Vanessa presented, what John has looked at before that, and how you're describing the operation of this should be. I mean, we don't see anything here that says that, there's a possibility that trucks are going to be queuing up and blocking up on Route 20. So, John, I guess I'd ask you, after this additional information that Mr. Heads presented on the 22nd and the concern you had before, are you comfortable and clear on the idea that queuing won't be an issue?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, based on, the information I have gotten as far as how they're going to go ahead and take appointments to come on site, and they're going to limit it to 3 trucks an hour. I felt comfortable in regards to the queuing not occurring on site, just based on the operations that they have. I did have a couple questions that are somewhat that has came up as the last couple of days or so, but if Brian can answer in regards to typically, how long is a truck typically on site from when they get there and when they exit? But as far as loading, gunner ticket, and everything else, how long does that operation usually take?
So I can tell you that is a truck turnaround time is a metric that we are very cognizant of. And in my past life, when I left Pioneer Cold, right, largest single site 3PL in New England, we averaged from now. This is if the truck is on time for their appointment and the time they leave. So from the time the truck was arrived until the time they left, it averaged 62 minutes. But that was from the time it was started and finished. Whether that truck actually pulled out of the yard or not, and in that situation, we didn't know, but we don't have the space for the truck to park, and so they're going to have to leave the yard.
Okay. Now, this is wondering, as far as I know, you're having this operation put in place during the pandemic. Is that something that, as far as the check-in, will continue after the pandemic, or do you think you'll go back to the way you did it before?
We're gonna continue it. I think one of the things that we found, and several of my colleagues have found the same thing. We modified our process when the pandemic first kicked off. I mean, I've got colleagues that actually put printers and scanners out in the driver's room so the driver could scan the paperwork and it would email right to the reception. So we're trying to limit that as much as possible and be as efficient as possible with the least touches of any paperwork or any process. And that's how we've developed all these processes. I don't see us going back to that, John, not the old way. And really, if you have a facility that's got 150 dock doors, then you probably need the driver to come in and bring the paperwork.
Okay.
But if you got 11 doors, it's pretty manageable.
Okay. Then I just have one more question. I know you're going by appointments, and I think they call. I think you mentioned that they call when they're arriving. But if you have somebody who has a planned appointment at 8:30 and they end up showing up at 7:30, how do you guys handle that?
Well, that's why we have that additional staging space across the dock. But if we're only appointing 3 appointments an hour. We have plenty of doors that we could back one of those trucks into. And typically what we'll do in the operation, we're going to put the first 3 appointments in door 1, door 3, and door 5. And then as we swing back around, we'll go to door 7, door 9, we'll come back to door 2, door 4, door 6. So we're not putting the trucks right next to one another. We're leaving some room. And the reason for that is we need the space on the dock inside the building, and the doors are only 8 feet apart. So we'll unload, and then we also have staging room in the freezer rooms. So if you see the 2 freezer rooms that are set up there, on that center dividing wall, there's a 17.5-foot wide aisle that runs the length of the building. So there's plenty of room to unload the trailers and run the product into the box and then just deposit that there. So if we get into a point where, we've got to turn the doors really quickly, we have plenty of stage room. That's how we design the building.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so John, did you have any other comments or questions on that issue, or?
Those were the main ones. I think I did have one more just in regards. I know you, there was somewhere I read that, Southern New Hampshire, there's a facility, and you just talked about Portland. So how does that overall affect Sturbridge as far as numbers? Is it something that's, will take away some of your customer or make your customers more manageable as far as numbers that you have, or how they coincide?
It'll make the customers more manageable. That's actually a good question, because the facility in Southern New Hampshire is really a facility designed for bulk product storage. So a lot of the seasonal product, like frozen turkeys, frozen blueberries, frozen butter, those kind of things, frozen hams, fresh hams, those will go to the New Hampshire facility. They will not come into these frontline facilities. These facilities are going to be designed to service year-round, 12-month out of the year customers. And the Portland facility will actually be supporting the port of Portland as well.
Okay.
So import-export
goes through Portland.
So I just have one more question really for John, and that is, you know, we've had the benefit of, and you've had the benefit of just recently approving, you know, a very similar facility not very far away from this. And at the time, you know, I don't recall a lot of, you know, concern about queuing issues and so forth. And I just wanted, from your experience in reviewing that and reviewing this project, is there any key sensitivity difference here that makes it more of a concern in one of the other projects as far as this potential?
Yeah, I mean, the other projects certainly had more queuing, the way that it was laid out. And I think, you know, with this site, you know, looking at it as far as the volumes that were coming in just based on the ITE numbers, and with the number of spaces that they had with the 22 spaces or 23 spaces, I guess it is for trucks. You know, I originally felt that, you know, that would be enough in there for stacking. And then after hearing more about the operations and how that would occur and how they're going by appointments, and, you know, there's nothing in any of the documents that was originally given as far as the overall operations, the number of employees and such. And I think when I got that, I felt a lot more comfortable in regards to the site. And I think based on what's been provided as far as the operation, I'm comfortable in regards to how it would work.
John, thank you. Okay, maybe a good time now to see if any of the members of the board have any other questions as we are at this point. Sue, do you have any questions or comments?
No, I have no questions or comments.
Okay, Chris?
Nope, I don't either.
Russ?
Just a couple of minor ones. Gene, I noticed we didn't get anything from the Board of Health. This, obviously this is, this one and the other one are new to the town. They don't need any kind of specialized training for inspecting these places, or nothing was brought up regarding that?
They didn't bring anything up on this one or on the other one that was reviewed either. So generally when the Board of Health is the applications, they're mainly looking at sewer and water connections, sanitary connections, and then any other inspection processes by the Board of Health would be kind of a separate permitting process.
Okay, just curious. And then, Brian, when you're working with the fire department, I would highly encourage you to work with the chief to schedule a walkthrough for the entire department, at the beginning, before you open or shortly thereafter you open.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah,
That's all I have, Charlie.
Russ, that would be something that we would do annually, is have a fire walkthrough. And I mean, I don't know how many groups you have on the Sturbridge Fire Department, but we, in the past, always picked the fire chief, and each group got a walkthrough and a tour.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Very good. Thank you. Jeff?
Nothing.
Okay, thank you. Dane?
Nope.
Okay, great. And I have no other questions. Jane, do you have anything you'd like to add at this point, or any questions you'd like to bring up?
No,
I guess maybe just one thing is, I guess directed to Andy Baum, the details of the emergency access road.
I didn't have
that on the list, but it's sounding like that should be added as a condition of approval. If the board should choose to grant that you'll provide those details
to update the
plan set?
Yes. Okay.
Okay.
All right. That was
Okay, and then the issues discussed, raised about the question of the coverage and the capability of the emergency access road to bear the loads. Is that something we should add as part of a condition?
Yes,
that would be on the emergency access road details needing to bear the load of the fire truck. But John, I missed, there was a structure that you're questioning the cover on as well?
Yeah, I believe right in that same area, detention basin 1, just check the elevation on top of the system that's in place.
basin number.
Basin number 1?
Yeah. I think it was it's about 2.5 feet of cover, which may be okay, but it goes kind of hand in hand with the detail, because I know that's the area that I believe was just looked like a grass emergency road. So it was kind of a two-parted question. Could that handle the load, number 1? And then number 2, is this the proper detail for going around the building with a fire truck?
So that will go.
With the details for the emergency access road condition.
Yeah, I think, yeah.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Very good. Thanks for Chief. Any comments?
Yes.
Yes, Janae will check that.
Is there anyone on the line that would like to comment on the 90 Charlton Road? Is there anyone on the line that would like to comment on 90 Charlton Road?
It appears we have
no one on the line, Charlie.
Okay. So I guess we're ready then for a motion.
Motion to close the public hearing?
Hang on. There is actually someone that would like to speak. He just can't be heard. Hang on one sec, please.
It appears there's somebody on the.
Okay. Do we know why he can't be heard, or
No,
I'm not sure.
who just said that there's somebody on the line?
there was.
Yeah, I think he needs to hit star 6. Is that? Are you there, Dan? Okay.
Could whoever's
speaking identify?
Sure, this is Jeff Eklund. I'm just waiting for someone to try to chime in that wanted to chime in, but I don't know if he can get on, so. Doesn't sound like it.
We can.
read
Read the phone number. Janae, can I have the phone number, please?
Can
Can you guys hear me now?
Hello?
Hello?
Who's speaking?
Yeah, we can hear you. You identify yourself?
Oh,
Yeah, okay, I'm sorry. I finally got on. Thank you. This is Dan Bigden with Foster Hill Transport. And, as you all know, I wrote in those questions.
One I
want to say is it's very exciting to have a new cold storage facility coming to town, Brian and the rest of you guys. And when we saw that, you always think, as I'm in business development with the company, like I said, I have to reach out to these guys and start looking at the plans.
But one of
the things that you can't express in a writing up or
what my
comments were is an emotion or how I feel behind my question, and it's not portrayed really a lot of how I either wrote them or how they may have been read with my comments. And one of the things I want to state is the reason why I wrote those and we wrote those to you is because we don't want to see problems for not only if we're going to work with you in the future and how this goes, but other people. And as we've been 14 years in the business, come across many issues where, or many examples of issues where we've had problems with working with, as I've written in some of the 3PLs and some of the other cold storage facilities throughout New England that
have come up,
and I understand the company with Brian's painting the best picture they can, but we see scenarios where we'll show up or we schedule meetings with some of these companies, and Brian, you stated you work for Pioneer and so forth, where our truck doesn't show up or our logistics truck doesn't show up, whoever, and those loads are in the way of loading. That load that's there prepared now has to be run around. It takes longer to get loads from the back of the facility to the front because someone missed out and there's someone ahead of them and so forth. That creates tie-ups. With weather inclusion in that also could be have to deal with at the facility or on Route 20 in this location where there's a hill when you're going eastbound and trying to get in the facility. So some of the concerns I'm bringing forth are what we just saw. We are not here to not knock down the facility. Again, we're excited. It's just that the hope take care of them before they become issues. And some of the things with queuing or some of the things we've had to do, either because employees are late or with COVID, showing up at a facility and 5 guys can't work on the forklifts because they've tested positive for the COVID, and now we've been delayed 5 or 6 hours because of that. And then we have the driver issue, driver hours issue related to the driver at the facility, and that driver then may be needed once he delivers from the facility to the delivery point. If the dispatcher may have him grabbing another load or may be able to do 2 loads or 2 turns within the 11-hour limit or the 14-hour limit with some rest time in there and so forth. So from our standpoint is I wrote that up to say I think there might be some issues when you put the weather, the traffic, having lived locally in this area and in the Christmas time and the holiday season, trying to get into the Walmart area, what's the Hobbs Crossing, I think, or whatever it's called in there. You're backed up sometimes as far as Burger King to get in there, of which I just turned around and went home and decided I wanted to deal with traffic. So adding truck traffic in there may or may not be an issue. I understand you guys got a queue for 3 trucks an hour,
But as you know, and I know, our trucks are straight out essentially from October till about the first week of January, moving frozen goods, and it's the busiest time of the season for us. So hence, I just wanted to state that. If you got any questions from my standpoint, please do, or any comments with what I said, please do clarify. And thank you for the time on this meeting tonight, Board of Selectmen from Sturbridge and so forth.
Okay, Mr. Bigman, thank you very much, and thank you for your input. We did, convey your concerns to the proponent and also to the S Associate and also to pair associates who are dealing with us. And they really, I think, tried to take all those concerns into consideration. And I just reiterate again the question to our tier consultant, John Shevlin. Hearing all this and understanding what was presented, are you still comfortable that this is, as you anticipate it to be, that it will be a safe operation?
Yeah, I am, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Very good.
Let's just see if there's anyone else on there, Charlie.
Yeah.
Is there anyone else on the line that would like to make comments on 90 Charlton Road?
Looks like we're all
set, Charlie.
Okay, very good. Is the board ready then to make a decision on this? Are we ready to make a motion to approve as recommended by the town planner?
Charlie,
excuse me.
Public hearing?
Okay, we will have to close the public hearing, yeah. Jane?
I just want to make sure.
That you remember you have two votes to take. One is on the special permit request for the height,
And then on the
on the site plan.
Okay, fine. You want to take the height first?
Want to close the public hearing first, right?
That's right. We do close the public hearing. Russ made a motion to close the public hearing. Do you want to make a second on that?
Second,
Okay,
yes.
great. All right. So now this is on closing the public hearing. Sue, how do you vote?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Russ?
Yes.
Yes? Yes. Jane?
Yes.
I vote yes. Very good. Okay, so the first motion will be to approve the height. Jane, do you have the wording for that?
Yes,
The appropriate motion would be to grant a special permit for the construction of the building with the maximum roof height to be 57 feet in accordance with Chapter 10, Section 10.02.
Okay, could I have the motion?
So moved?
Sue, thank you. Second?
Second, Chris?
Thank you, Chris. Sue, how do you vote?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Russ?
Yes.
Yes? Yes. Jane?
Yes.
I vote yes. Okay, and the next motion will be, Gene, do you want to go through that?
Yeah, so the
next motion would be to approve the site plan approval for RLF for construction of a 83,035 square foot frozen food warehouse and distribution facility on the property located at 90 Charlton Road in accordance with the plans and specifications submitted and in accordance with the following conditions of approval.
Number one,
All construction and improvements should be in conformance with the plans submitted and approved by the planning board. Except as modified by these conditions. A copy of the approved site plan shall be on site at all times. Two, the final details of the emergency access road shall be submitted to the planning department for review by the peer reviewer and approval.
the
The specification shall show that the access road can handle the weight of emergency access vehicles, including a fire truck. Also, the amount of cover
shall be reviewed
for basin number 1, and details shall be provided, again, to show that it can support the weight of an emergency vehicle.
Number two,
all state, or excuse me, that would be 3 now. All state and local zoning bylaws, building codes, and regulations must be adhered to.
4, all
All other necessary permits must be obtained prior to the start of construction.
5,
5, the site shall be kept in a neat and orderly condition throughout the construction process.
6,
6, exterior construction shall occur only during the hours of 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Friday and 8 a.m. to noon on Saturday. No exterior construction shall occur on Sundays or the following holidays: New Year's Day, Memorial Day, Independence Day, Labor Day, Thanksgiving Day, and Christmas Day. 7. The applicant shall notify the planning department 48 hours prior to the start of construction. 8. No storage may be only stored as shown on the plan submitted. 9. An emergency contact phone list with at least 2 names and numbers on it shall be supplied to the Sturbridge Police Department and the Planning Department to be used by dispatchers in the case of
emergency prior
prior to the start of the project. The list must be updated whenever necessary for the duration of the project. 10. Sorry. All erosion and sedimentation control shall be installed on the plan, as shown on the plan, and inspected prior to the start of work. 11. A pre-construction meeting shall be held at least 1 week prior to the start of work. Present shall be the applicant's contractors and other appropriate designees, the town planner, DPW director, police chief, fire chief, building inspector, or their designee. The purpose of the meeting shall be to discuss the construction process, appropriate traffic and safety control measures during construction, stockpile of materials, and inspection of the erosion control. 12. The following dust control measures shall be adhered to throughout the entire construction process. A. Spray disturbed areas with water on dry and windy days as needed. B. Wash vehicle wheels before leaving the site as needed. C. Periodically clean surrounding roadways near the entrance to the site. D. An anti-tracking pad shall be installed and maintained throughout the construction process. 13. Construction monitor reports shall be provided to the planning department on a monthly basis until completion of the project. Reports shall be provided by the engineer of record and shall detail work completed, any issues encountered, and any deviations from the approved plans. 14. All excavation and trenching will be in accordance with the state trenching regulation 520 CMR 14, excavation and trench safety. The construction area shall be secured using temporary fencing as needed. 15. The stormwater operations and maintenance plan and site records shall be stored on site to ensure employees are familiar with the demands of the plan. 16. Maintenance is required for all plantings as proposed. The plantings shall be reviewed annually by the owner/applicant, and any plant materials requiring replacement shall occur. And 17. An as-built must be provided for all site work, including plantings, when the work has been completed.
Very good, thank you. Can we have a motion then to that effect?
So moved.
Thank you. A second?
Second, Chris?
Thank you, Chris. Drew, how do you vote?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes?
Us?
Yes.
Yeah? Yes. Jane?
Yes.
I vote yes. Very good. Thank you very much. Thank you all. Good luck with the project.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, John.